Tonight we have AEW All Out, the second annual All Out pay-per-view. Of course, All Out last year took place in the Sears Center in Chicago, Illinois. That would have been the plan for this year's All Out pay-per-view, but of course, everything has changed in the world currently, so All Out will be taking place tonight on September 5th, 2020 in Daly's Place in Jacksonville, Florida. We are going to have paid fans at the event, as we have for the last few episodes of AEW Dynamite. There'll be about 10 to 15% capacity at Daly's Place, so we're looking at around 500 to 750 fans going to be there on hand for tonight's All Out pay-per-view event, along with the wrestlers surrounding the ring, as we have seen recently on AEW Dynamite. We've got a stacked show. We've got 10 matches listed for the card currently, including one match on the pre-show. So we're going to go through all of the matches, have a bit of a preview, have some predictions. But before we do, let's have a quick word from one of the great supporters of WrestleNews 365. Support for WrestleNews 365 is brought to you by Manscaped, who is the best in men's below-the-waist grooming. Manscaped offers precision-engineered tools for your family jewels. Now, Manscaped, for all of my UK fans out there, Manscaped just launched in the UK. Over here in the United Kingdom, we have gone for years and years and years without using the right tools for the job. But now you can be one of the first men in England to experience their life-changing product. But it's not just limited to all of the great fans over here in the UK. This offer goes worldwide, so all of my friends over in America and around the world that are listening to this offer still does apply for you. You can still use our code. But I've got to tell you a quick story first. Now, there have been so many times, right? I'm a guy. You gotta groom down there, fellas, right? That's the most important thing. You gotta keep yourself trimmed. You gotta keep yourself proper. And a lot of the time, I've been guilty of this, of using the wrong tools for the job. I've had incidences, I'm not afraid to say it, where things have been nicked, snagged, or in fact cut down there because I wasn't being careful enough and using the right equipment. Now that just shouldn't happen. That shouldn't happen. You don't want to be worrying about cutting yourself down there. Do you know how painful that is? I can tell you, it hurts quite a lot. And I wish and hope to God it never happens to me again, and it won't happen to me ever again because I'm using Manscaped products. That's why Manscaped has redesigned the electric trimmer. The Manscaped engineering team has perfected the greatest ball hair trimmer ever created. Big statement, but it's absolutely true. They have just released the new and improved Lawnmower 3.0 in the UK. It's also available around the world as well. Their third generation trimmer features a cutting edge ceramic blade to reduce grooming accidents. So those cuts and snags that I was telling you about before are a thing of the past. And let me tell you, when I tell you this is premium, I mean premium. The battery will last up to 90 minutes so you can get a longer, perfect shave. And not only that, you don't want to be cutting yourself and trimming yourself all over the bathroom, getting hair all over the place. That's just disgusting. The lawnmower has a waterproof technology that allows you to groom in the shower, so no more mess. And one of the coolest features, one of my favorite features about the lawnmower is the LED light, which illuminates grooming areas for a closer and more precise trimming experience. So you can shave longer, you can shave more precisely, and you can shave in the shower. What more do I need to tell you? They've also upgraded to a 7,000 RPM motor with quiet stroke technology, and let's not forget about the charging stand. You can show off your mower loud and proud because this intelligently designed stand is a convenient charging dock powered by USB. So, if you are listening to me speak right now, I want you to experience it firsthand for yourself. Let's get that bush to tush clean, and you can get 20% off and free shipping. Yeah, you heard me right there. 20% off and free shipping. All you have to do is use the code 365wrestle at manscaped.com. Make your testes their besties. That's 20% off and free shipping. Not only are you getting 20% off, you're getting free shipping as well with the code 365wrestle at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com, and use the code 365wrestle. Your balls will thank you. So the first match we have is on the buy-in, which is the AEW All Out pre-show. It's a tag team match. We have Private Party, of course, Isaiah Cassidy and Mark Quinn going up against Alex Reynolds and John Silver of the Dark Order. Now, of course, this wasn't originally the plan for the AEW All Out pre-show. Originally, it was scheduled that Britt Baker would be facing Big Swole in a tooth and nail match that was going to be on the buy-in. But things have changed, and rightfully so. I won't get in too much about that because we'll talk about that when we talk about Britt Baker and Big Swole. But this match here with Private Party and the Dark Order, what I will say is I think Private Party is a tag team, and I think this is kind of everyone knows this at this point, but Private Party is a tag team that has so much potential, such a big upside. I think back to their first big win on AEW Dynamite last year, right, when they defeated the Young Bucks as part of the tag team tournament to crown the first ever tag team champions. Since then, they've been there and thereabouts. I think there's more to them. They're still a very young tag team, and I think their potential is huge. As far as the Dark Order, Alex Reynolds and John Silver, I have no doubt here that Private Party will win. I'd be very surprised if Private Party didn't win this match. But the Dark Order, and again, we'll go in more in depth when we talk about the Dark Order and their 8-man tag team match. The Dark Order have actually been a bit of a pleasant surprise for me recently. I think their improvement with Brody Lee has been very, very good. You look back to the Dark Order have been a stable ever since AEW began, and they've had their ups and downs. They really have. For the longest time, the Dark Order for me were a stable that didn't make a lot of sense, or they just bored me. I didn't get it. But under Brody Lee, and we've had a bit more direction, and now they're one of the sort of more featured groups on AEW television. They're fun to watch. I thought their segment they had after the Cody Rhodes beatdown was very well done. I thought the Cody Rhodes beatdown that they did was very well done too. So I think the Dark Order have improved a lot recently. I think their vignettes are more enjoyable to watch. I think Brody Lee is a big part of that. His sort of maniacal leader, who is based on Vince McMahon, I don't care what they say, has helped them out a lot. So I think the Dark Order have improved a lot when it comes to a character and act on AEW television in recent months. But this match, Private Party versus Alex Reynolds and John Silver, no doubt it'll be a fun match, but I think Private Party will get the victory here. If I recall correctly, and I might be wrong, if I recall correctly, were Private Party, were they on the pre-show for Double or Nothing? Yeah, they were. They lost to Best Friends, which was a tag team match for number one contendership. So once again, you have Private Party on the pre-show. But realistically here, look, it's a stacked card. Where else are they going to go? It's very, very difficult to get onto these cards because the roster in AEW is very deep, very strong, and the tag team division, I've said it a million times, the tag team division in AEW is just something else. It's the best tag team division in the world. And to get onto a tag team title match on a pay-per-view for AEW, you have to be really something else and have some proper momentum. You really do. So I'm going to go with Private Party to win this one, but should be a fun opener on the buy-in. So the next match is the Tooth and Nail match. This is the match I was referencing between Dr. Britt Baker, DMD, of course with Rebel at her side, or Reba, whatever you want to call her, against Big Swole here on AEW All Out. It's a Tooth and Nail match. Now, what is a Tooth and Nail match? Well, this match is going to be set, according to Tony Khan, the AEW president and CEO, this match is going to be set inside Britt Baker's dental practice, which I'm assuming is in, where is Britt Baker from? Pittsburgh, isn't she? From Pittsburgh. I'm assuming that's going to be in Pittsburgh. I believe, as far as I'm aware, it's already been shot. And the reason I say that is because it's actually going to be a cinematic match. Tony Khan referenced this during the All Out media calls. Dave Meltzer from the Wrestling Observer newsletter also touched on this, saying it's already been filmed. It's going to be shot in cinematic style, so we are going to get a cinematic match of some sorts on this AEW All Out pay-per-view. So that should be a lot of fun. The only way to win this match is by pinfall submission. It's no disqualification, falls count anywhere, anything goes. So the fact that it's a tooth and nail match, I think it's just essentially it's falls count anywhere, but the setting is in Britt Baker's dentistry office. Therefore, it has to be given a funny name. Because that's the thing with these cinematic shows. We've seen it in WWE and AEW for that matter. That if it's cinematic, because of the different setting, it has to be given a funny name, right? That's how the things work. Because it's cinematic, it's got to be a Boneyard match. Because it's cinematic, it has to be a Firefly Funhouse match. That's essentially how these things will work, because it's in a swamp. It has to be a Wyatt swamp fight. So it's the same here. Because it's in Britt Baker's dentist office, it has to be a tooth and nail match. Get it? Tooth? But I think the thing that's been probably most talked about when it comes to Britt Baker versus Big Swole is the placement on the card of the match. Because it was announced this past week that Britt Baker would be facing Big Swole at AEW All Out in a tooth and nail match. But the surprising aspect of it was that after months and months and months and months of feuding on AEW television, and I say months, this feud goes back to like March. Yeah, that far back. We're talking about 6 months of this feud on AEW television, that we were going to have Britt Baker versus Big Swole in a tooth and nail match on the buy-in. And social media and AEW fans and wrestling fans online exploded with huge criticism, because why is this show on the buy-in? You've put so much time into this match. Whether it's Britt Baker, obviously has been out with injury. She's had she had to recover from a leg injury. They said it was a torn ACL. I don't think it was, but she had a bad leg injury. That was back in May. She also underwent surgery for a deviated septum, which got broken during those pandemic shows at the Nightmare Factory in Georgia. So she's been on the shelf recovering, but she's still been featured on AEW television every single week that have involved segments with Big Swole. Big Swole, right? She got suspended. She threw Britt Baker into the trash bin or garbage pail, whatever you want to call it in America. And constantly back and forth. Every week, Britt Baker's having promos. Big Swole's trying to enter the arena. This has been going on, honestly, for months. So this past week, when they said, okay, Britt Baker's going to be facing Big Swole in a tooth and nail match at AEW All Out, you thought, right, brilliant, makes sense. It's been going on for months. We're going to get the payoff. Britt Baker had said months ago, I'm going to return to action at All Out. And they went, and it's going to be on the buy-in pre-show. Everyone went, what? What a waste of time. What a waste of time. You're telling me you've invested that long into it and they're going to be on the pre-show? It just didn't feel worth it. And to me, it felt like a bit of a slight to the competitors, because again, you've been building this for months. Every episode of Dynamite has featured something to do with Britt Baker or Big Swole, and they're on the pre-show, which maybe half the people that watch the pay-per-view will watch, maybe less. It deserved more. It deserved way more. The amount of time that they've invested into it, it deserved more. And also, you can have the criticism, and it's justified, of AEW's female division, because their female division hasn't been very good. Their matches haven't been very good. And I don't think it's necessarily just the talent involved, I'll be completely honest, because I do think they have some good talents in the AEW women's division, but the presentation of AEW's female division has been very poor as well. You get one match per show on Dynamite, which is like 5 minutes long, and you get one match per pay-per-view, which might be a little bit longer, but the presentation isn't good enough. And especially in comparison to where you have the WWE and NXT females division, which is, in my opinion, the best in the world. But then you've also got now Impact Wrestling, and their Knockouts division can compete with anyone's women's division around the world. It's absolutely world class. Then you're having one female match a show on Dynamite that lasts 5 minutes, and the fact that you have a separate women's storyline ongoing that can't make the main card, that has to go on the pre-show. I think that was a lot of people's criticism there. Now, in fairness to Tony Khan, and in fairness to AEW, they decided to listen to the fans. They did the right thing. They moved this to the main card, and they had Private Party versus the Dark Order on the pre-show. But it does make you wonder about AEW's thought process and their real philosophies when it comes to booking women's wrestling on their shows, because the facts speak for themselves. And I do think it's a little bit of the chicken and egg scenario, whereby how can you feature a women's division more when the talent isn't there? But I do think the talent is there. You've got Britt Baker. You've got Hikaru Shida. I think Big Swole's a fine talent. I don't think she's the best talent in the world, but I think she's fine. You've got Nyla Rose, Penelope Ford. There's lots of talent in there, and there's lots of talent available to sign. Serena Deeb had a fantastic match this past week on AEW Dynamite. Sign her up. So I think that the criticism for this came down to how long you've put into promoting this match. Why isn't it not on the main card? And again, it comes down to AEW's presentation of women's wrestling. So I think they made absolutely the right call. I'm glad they did. If I had to pick a winner for this match, I think Britt Baker will win this one. So return to action, the first time she's going to be competing, even though it's not going to be technically in the ring, it's going to be inside her dentistry office. But that's going to be the first time that she's competed since May. So I'm going to go with Britt Baker to defeat Big Swole here on her return. But the main thing here is that I'm glad it's not made the main card, because we need more than one women's match on a main card for the biggest pay-per-view event of AEW for the year. So I'm glad that they've done that. Next up, we have Matt Hardy versus Sammy Guevara in a Broken Rules match. Now, if Matt Hardy loses this match, he must leave AEW. So I think that kind of gives you the spoiler for this one. I'm going to go with Matt Hardy to win. I absolutely hate when they add these things on, and I understand why they add these stipulations on, because it's meant to add drama, right? It's meant to add drama. Oh, Matt Hardy could leave AEW. And 9 times out of 10, it never goes like that. Triple H, I think, has had like 2 WrestleMania matches where if he loses, he's going to retire, and he never does. So I think it might be the same here. I don't think Matt Hardy's leaving AEW anytime soon. So I think Matt Hardy will win this one. The only scenario that I could see for Matt Hardy leaving AEW in this case is that it's all part of a way for him to make a new version of the broken Matt Hardy character. He's very big on having these moments that are very pivotal to storytelling. And this is probably, I would argue that this Matt Hardy versus Sammy Guevara feud is probably, I wouldn't want to say it's his best work, but it's certainly something that he's been able to sink his teeth into. And the first thing he's really been able to sink his teeth into in this AEW run. Obviously, he was involved in the Elite versus Inner Circle stuff, and that didn't happen because of the pandemic, right? And in another parallel reality, we would have seen the Blood and Guts match, which Matt Hardy would have been involved in, broken Matt Hardy. But it feels like his run so far in AEW just hasn't met the expectations that a lot of people thought it would be, and I think Matt Hardy would say that himself. When broken Matt Hardy made his debut on AEW Dynamite, a lot of fans were really excited because they thought we were going to see the Matt Hardy of 2015, 2016 in Impact Wrestling. That was a real creative renaissance for Matt Hardy. Obviously came up with the broken Matt character, the broken universe, and creatively was stifled in WWE for a long time, wasn't even allowed to do the broken character, had to do WWE's version, Woken Matt Hardy, and it never really met the expectations. Then he did the revival of the Hardy Boys and the old school Hardy Boys with Jeff, and because of injuries with Jeff and personal issues with Jeff and creative issues, it just never worked in WWE. So I think a lot of people, when they saw Matt was coming into AEW, were very excited that we were going to see that version of Matt Hardy. We were going to see the Impact Wrestling version of Matt Hardy, something creative, something unique, and that was what Matt Hardy himself wanted to do. And maybe because of the pandemic, maybe because of circumstances out of his control, it just so far for me hasn't worked. But this feud with Sammy Guevara has been a nice high spot for Matt Hardy. Obviously, they had the brawls, they had the real moment that set this feud on fire was the Sammy Guevara chair to the head of Matt Hardy, causing him to bleed like a stuffed pig on AEW Dynamite. It wasn't meant to happen. Sammy Guevara did get heat for it, but I think it's one of those things. It wasn't meant to happen. Sammy gets in trouble, but it was the best thing for this feud. And I think that absolutely raised it up a level. They had a match that main evented Dynamite a few weeks ago. Sammy Guevara won. So I think Matt Hardy will get his victory back here. I don't think he'll leave AEW. The only way that I think he'll leave AEW in storyline is to create a new story, a new character, essentially. In terms of the Broken Rules match, I have no idea what that is. It is funny in this show, and I mentioned this on social media because it is worth mentioning. On this show, you have a tooth and nail match, you have a Broken Rules match, and you have a Mimosa Mayhem match. Now, I think that's maybe slightly too gimmicky of 3 matches of that nature on one show. But I do think it's funny that if Vince Russo was writing this show, if Vince Russo came up with the ideas of a Mimosa Mayhem match, a Broken Rules match, and a tooth and nail match, can you imagine the reaction on social media. Can you imagine the reaction in the wrestling business if Vince Russo came up with those ideas? So that's just something to think about, right? One rule for one, it should be one rule for the others as well, but I'm sure it won't be. Broken Rules match, I would assume it's just, again, it's kind of like a Falls Count Anywhere hardcore style match, maybe. I don't think it'll be cinematic because Britt Baker and Big Swole have the cinematic match for the evening, but who knows? But in terms of prediction, I think Matt Hardy's going to win this one. Next up, we have a tag team match. We have Luchasaurus and Jungle Boy, the Jurassic Express, going up against the Young Bucks, Matt Jackson and Nick Jackson. Obviously, this past week on AEW Dynamite, a tag team of Jurassic Express and the Young Bucks won their match to then become opponents at AEW All Out. I didn't like the stipulation for that match. To me, it just didn't make a lot of sense. I understand that they tried their best, Jim Ross, Tony Schiavone and Excalibur on commentary, to sort of sell this match. They were trying to say, they're trying to make money. If you can get on the card, you can make money and all that sort of stuff. I don't know. I just felt that thing just didn't really make a lot of sense for me. It wasn't for me. But the match itself tonight should be very, very good. Jurassic Express, Jungle Boy, Luchasaurus, Young Bucks, two great tag teams. I'm sure they'll have a great match. I think the Young Bucks will get the win here because they need the win more, and I think Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus losing to the Young Bucks doesn't hurt them. But what I really think here is that the Young Bucks, this won't be their only point in the show, pretty much. I think the Young Bucks will get involved somehow in the Kenny Omega, Hangman Page versus FTR AEW World Tag Team match. Of course, we know the situation at the moment between the Young Bucks and Adam Page. I've been pitching for a while that I think that the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega should be the people to turn heel. If you look at their run in New Japan as the Elite, they were heels there. I think they should be heels in AEW. I think that if you look at the Young Bucks so far in AEW, realistically, as a tag team, what have they done? They've been involved in big matches as part of the Elite, but in terms of a tag team, they haven't really done anything. I think a lot of people thought they were going to become the AEW World Tag Team Champions pretty early. That hasn't happened. Now, this will be a year. Well, how long have the AEW been in existence now in terms of running shows? About 18 months, roughly. Maybe a little bit less than that. But I think a lot of people thought 18 months in, the Young Bucks would have won the Tag Team Championships by now, and it hasn't happened. So I think at some point in this evening, this is going to be one of my bold predictions, I think at some point in this evening, the Young Bucks will turn heel. I don't think it's in this match. Although, if they wanted to, Jurassic Express are the ultimate babyface team, aren't they? Whether it's Luchasaurus or Jungle Boy, I think if the Young Bucks absolutely destroy Marco Stunt, poor old Marco Stunt at ringside, I think that would be a good way for them to sort of slyly indicate that they are going to be turning heel later on in the evening. But in terms of the match, the one thing I will say is there is absolutely no stakes to this match. And I think that's a really important thing to point out there. And because a lot of the time with the great pay-per-view matches, there's stakes involved, right? I did criticize Matt Hardy, Sammy Guevara about Hardy losing, but there is stakes involved there. Britt Baker versus Big Swole, they've been feuding for months. There's stakes there. And obviously the other matches might be for titles, there's stakes there, or they've been feuding for a while. This one, it's just very cold. It doesn't feel like there's anything really going into it. They won the match on Dynamite to become opponents, even though they were partners. It just feels very, very strange. So I'm sure the match quality won't be a problem at all. I think it'll be a very good match. My issue is that there doesn't feel like there's a lot of stakes there. I think the good thing for this match, though, is that they could maybe lay the foundations for a Young Bucks heel turn later on in the evening. So for that reason, I'm going to go with the Young Bucks winning this one. So next up, we have an 8-man tag team match. We have the Dark Order, of course, the AEW TNT champion Brody Lee, Mr. Brody Lee, Colt Cabana, Evil Uno, and Stu Grayson going up against Matt Cardona, Scorpio Sky, and the Natural Nightmares, which are, of course, Dustin Rhodes and QT Marshall, with Ali at ringside. Now, this was obviously all based on the Dark Order's attack on Cody and the Nightmare family after Mr. Brody Lee became the AEW TNT champion. I'm very surprised here that this is going to be an 8-man tag on this show. I think someone made a really good point on social media. I forget who it was, but that if Cody was the TNT champion, there is no doubt at all that we'd be getting a TNT championship match on this show. we wouldn't have Cody in an 8-man tag on the arguably AEW's biggest show of the year. So I think that's very interesting. I would have preferred that Brody Lee defended the AEW TNT Championship, go up against Matt Cardona. I don't think Matt Cardona would have won that match, but it's a championship match. It adds to the show. This multi-man tag deal feels like a bit of a crutch to me for AEW. This 8-man tag, 10-man tag, 6-man tag, they do it a lot. And I'm not criticizing in the sense that I don't like these matches, not at all. But I just think sometimes, look, they've got a very big roster and they are constantly signing talent. And sometimes it feels like they're just trying to shoehorn as many people onto the show as possible, which I appreciate in terms of the payday. But sometimes for me, it just feels a bit unnecessary. The Dark Order versus Matt Cardona, Scorpio Sky, and the Natural Nightmares on a card like All Out does absolutely nothing for me. And no disrespect to the people involved, it just feels like it's something that isn't maybe worthy of the show. It feels like a pre-show match. It really does. These multi-man matches with not a lot going on. Do I think that Cody will return here? I don't think so. We've heard that he's away, going to be filming a project with Stephen Amell, a pro wrestling sitcom of sorts. So Cody Rhodes is going to be away from TV for a while, which I do find interesting. Obviously, I appreciate that he's trying to get his name out there and increase the AEW brand. However, I do speculate that would an executive vice president of WWE go away and film a TV project around the time of WrestleMania? I'm just saying. I know that'll probably stir some people up, but I think it's worth mentioning there. In terms of this one, I think the Dark Order will win. I don't think Brody Lee should be doing any jobs at the moment, and I think the important thing is that the Dark Order remains strong. I mentioned at the top of the video that the Dark Order, when they first made their debuts, it might have even been All Out last year. Or it might have been, I think it might have been Double or Nothing. They appeared, didn't they? They made their debut where the lights went out and they attacked people and everyone was like, who are you? And it just didn't start off very well. And the Dark Order certainly had their moments. You remember that final episode of Dynamite in 2019 where the Dark Order attacked the Elite and it was horrible, and you had those guys pulling the punches against Dustin Rhodes, and some of the promos and the vignettes have been horrible. But they've gradually found their way. I think as with Brody Lee as the leader, it's helped a lot. They've kind of moved away from being this sort of weird, dystopian, dark, sort of, I don't know, supernatural thing. And they've kind of moved it more towards a sort of cult-like enterprise. And I think that is a better element to it because those things do exist. Those things are based on real life. And I think Brody Lee's a good leader for that. And I think Brody Lee's doing some absolutely fantastic work too. And he's a tremendous talent. Everyone knows the ability of Brody Lee. So I think the Dark Order have actually emerged as one of the better featured acts on AEW recently. As I mentioned there, segment a couple of weeks ago, sort of with the coffin and the lawnmowers and Brody Lee and the Celebrate, and then Brody Lee starts slapping the hell out of Alex Reynolds and John Silver. I think that's all been great. I really do. So I think the Dark Order will win this one. Do I think Cody will show up? I don't think so. But as I mentioned, I would have preferred that this would have been a singles match, have Brody Lee go up against Matt Cardona. Makes the most sense for me, but it appears that AEW rather, are trying to shoehorn as many people onto the card as possible, in my opinion. So next we have the 21-man Casino Battle Royale, with the winner receiving a future AEW World Championship match. Competitors we have already announced for this one include Darby Allin, Lance Archer, Brian Cage, Ricky Starks, Pentagon Jr., Ray Phoenix, The Butcher, The Blade, Eddie Kingston, Shawn Spears, Billy and Austin Gunn, Jake Hager, Santana Ortiz, Chuck Taylor and Trent, and a to-be-announced final competitor, or more final competitors rather. So again, these are interesting because it feels like at every show we have a battle royal, a ladder match, or something of that nature that signifies a future AEW World Championship match, right? Double or Nothing, it was Brian Cage made his debut, won the ladder match, and became the number one contender for the AEW World Championship. I think that's going to be, maybe this is going to be a regular thing. Of course, All Out last year, did we have a Casino Battle Royale? I don't think we did. And certainly not a one to win an AEW World Championship opportunity. We had a 21-woman Casino Battle Royale last year, which was won by Nyla Rose, and the winner faced Rio or Hikaru. It was Rio to become the AEW Women's World Champion. So, as I mentioned, they do these things. It feels like at every show at this point about a Battle Royal having a future World Championship opportunity, whether that's for the Women's World Title, the World Championship, whether it's the ladder match at Double or Nothing 2. So, who's going to win this one? Well, the storylines going into this one really have been Team Taz, right? You've got Brian Cage and Ricky Starks. They've been feuding with Darby Allin, but you've got Lance Archer in there, of course, with Jake Roberts. Jake Roberts has had a sort of verbal sparring with Taz in recent weeks. You've also got the new faction of Eddie Kingston's group, which includes Pentagon Jr., Rey Fenix, The Butcher, and The Blade, and Eddie Kingston. And then you've also got the other people that got involved. You've got the Inner Circle in there. You've got the Best Friends. They had a segment this past week on AEW Dynamite, and I'll be completely frank, the segment was atrocious. It was awful. It was really, really poor. You had Jake Roberts come out and then Taz come out. They were bickering back and forth. They were just talking over each other, and it was just bad promo. Then you had Eddie Kingston came out, and Eddie Kingston was actually a bit of a high spot in it. His promo I thought was really good, and he went toe-to-toe with two of the best talkers of all time in Jake Roberts and Taz. But then you had loads of people come out and brawl, and you thought that was the end of the segment. They went to picture-in-picture for the brawl, came back, and they were still brawling. It went way too long. It just didn't look good. It was sloppy. For me, it just didn't work. It didn't work. I have no doubts that this Casino Battle Royale will be good. It's a Royal Rumble kind of style where, depending on the hand that you pick, you can come in a bit later on. These Casino Battle Royales are normally done pretty well. But I think, as I mentioned, I thought the segment this past week on Dynamite, I thought it was terrible. I thought it was absolutely terrible. So who do I think is going to win this one? Well, I don't think Brian Cage is going to win this one, considering he won at Double or Nothing. I think if you're going to look at two potential winners, it's probably going to be Darby Allin or Lance Archer. The only thing I would say about Darby Allin is that Darby Allin, at this point, has had quite a few AEW World Championship opportunities. So maybe not him. I think Lance Archer is going to be my pick here. I think he's a bit of a dark horse. I think his only loss in AEW was the TNT Championship match against Cody. And I was worried about what would happen to him in AEW after that, because he got built up, and then his first big match he lost. But since then he hasn't lost. I think he's like second in the male ranking, so they've obviously got plans for him. I think if he wins the match and has the future AEW World Championship opportunity, that won't be at a pay-per-view. I think that'll likely be either on an episode of Dynamite or a TV special. I don't think they're going to headline a pay-per-view with Moxley versus Lance Archer, but I think it'll be something to pop a rating on a Wednesday night. So I think Lance Archer's going to win this one. Again, my concern would be after that is they're doing the exact same thing they did for him going into Double or Nothing. Build him up, and then he loses the big match. That would be my concern, but I think Lance Archer will win here. Next up, we have the AEW Women's World Championship. It's champion versus champion. You got the AEW Women's World Champion Hikaru Shida defending against the NWA World Women's Champion Thunder Rosa. Really, really excited for this one. I think this one could be the dark horse for the show. I think Hikaru Shida versus Thunder Rosa not only is going to be the best match in AEW Women's history, but I think this is going to be the best match on the show. I'm really excited about this. I think Thunder Rosa is just a fantastic talent. I think she's absolutely superb. She really, really is. I've been a big fan of her work, going back to the Lucha Underground days, but I've been a big fan of her work, especially in NWA. I was a big follower of her work during the episodes of NWA Power. Really enjoyed her match against Allison Kay at Hard Times, where she won the NWA World Women's Championship. She's just an excellent talent. She's one of the best female performers out there right now. Now, some people are going to say she's going to sign for AEW. No, she is on loan from the NWA. The NWA are back up and running. They're going to be running weekly pay-per-views on Fight TV. They've already announced Nick Aldis versus Mike Bennett for the NWA World's Heavyweight Championship for those shows. So Thunder Rosa will be a part of that project. This is just part of an exchange between the NWA and AEW, try and get the NWA's name out there. AEW needs the best female talent in the world, and Thunder Rosa is absolutely one of them. This past week on AEW Dynamite, Thunder Rosa, of course, went up against Serena Deeb and had arguably the best match in AEW women's history. Honestly. Now, obviously, we have had some good matches in AEW's women's divisions over the last 18 months or so, but the match was really, really good, and it's just a sign of things to come. Hikaru Shida, I think, is legitimately one of the best women's wrestlers in the world as well. I think Hikaru Shida could go into any company right now. So I think Hikaru Shida and Thunder Rosa is absolutely going to steal the show. And Hikaru Shida is building up a bit of a reputation of every match she is in is just world class. I think her match against Nyla Rose, a Double or Nothing, I thought was absolutely superb. I really did. And on that show, I said it was a dark horse for the match of the show because I thought it was really good. But this one against Thunder Rosa, I think it's going to be even better. I hope that they're given time. If this match goes 20 minutes, then I think it could be an absolute show stealer. I really do think it's going to be world class. I don't think Thunder Rosa is going to win this one because I would be surprised if they put the AEW World's Women's Championship on Thunder Rosa, an NWA wrestler. The only way that I could see that happening is that if they're having a bit more cross promotion. So you can have Thunder Rosa win the Women's World Championship here, then maybe you can do the rematch on the NWA pay-per-view on Fight TV. Maybe that's something they're looking to do. If I was AEW, I would consider it because you want to keep Thunder Rosa around as long as possible. And I think that would be the way to do that. So hopefully we see more Thunder Rosa after All Out. I don't know if we will. I'm going to say that I think Hikaru Shida is going to win this one, but this is one that I'm actually really excited for. It's arguably the match I'm most excited for tonight because I think it's just going to be fantastic, and I think it's going to absolutely blow people away. So I'm going to go with Hikaru Shida to retain, but I would say don't rule out the possibility of Thunder Rosa winning if we're going to have this AEW-NWA partnership continue. Next up, we have the AEW World Tag Team Championships on the line. AEW World Tag Team Champions Kenny Omega and Hangman Adam Page defend against FTR with Tully Blanchard in their corner. This one's going to be very, very good. Now, I must say, a couple of months ago, I thought the likely match we were going to see at All Out was going to be FTR versus the Young Bucks, and looks like they're taking their time when it comes to that one, and rightfully so. I think that's the right thing. The FTR versus Young Bucks match is going to be absolute money at some point down the line, but they don't need to rush into things whatsoever. Arguably as well, Kenny Omega and Hangman Page have been the better tag team in AEW so far. Their tag team matches, without fail, have just fantastic. They always work. They're always fantastic matches. Their match against the Young Bucks at AEW Revolution was just perfection. It really was. But even their matches on Dynamite every week, Kenny Omega and Hangman Page, for a tag team that is two singles guys going together, and usually it's a pet peeve of mine. I hate tag teams that are just two singles guys thrown together, but they've made it work, and they've been regularly tag teaming since January now, so 9 months. They've formed a legitimate tag team. I don't think the tag team will last much longer, but they form a legitimate tag team. Now, of course, when FTR became the number one contenders, it was Adam Page who cost the Young Bucks a match during that tag team gauntlet, right? Adam Page came to the ringside, held the foot of Nick Jackson, and the Young Bucks got eliminated. Some people said that was a heel turn. At the moment, Hangman Page looks very conflicted, doesn't he? Some people have been saying that this is a full heel turn for Hangman Page, and I'm not sure it is. Because of that, the Young Bucks kicked Hangman Page out of the Elite, whatever that means. But this past week on AEW Dynamite, you had Kenny Omega during an interview in the ring. I saw a lot of people criticize Kenny Omega, saying that his interview was weird. Go back and watch his stuff in New Japan. That's how he talks. He's an odd guy. He doesn't talk like a pro wrestler. He talks like Kenny Omega. I thought it was fine. And I thought his Hana Kimura shirt was absolutely a touch of class too. So well done to him on an AEW on that. Go and check out the shirt. All proceeds go to Hana Kimura's family. So just a classy move by Kenny Omega there and AEW. But as he's doing the interview, you have FTR come out and they talk about Hangman Page and the match on Sunday. Hangman Page comes out and basically FTR do the full heel turn then, and they admit that they've that manipulated Hangman Page to turn on the Young Bucks, and they'd got into Hangman Page's head. And the reason they'd managed to get into Hangman Page's head was all because of Kenny Omega. And Kenny Omega had told them about his deficiencies, his weaknesses, and his fragility, and things like that. So I thought the segment was very, very good. I thought the segment was very good this past week on AEW Dynamite. I've enjoyed the story between FTR and Hangman Page. I don't think Hangman Page is going to turn on Kenny Omega and join FTR or anything like that. I just don't see that. As I mentioned in the Hangman Page videos we've done here on the channel, I think that maybe the plan back in January when they had Hangman Page distance himself from the Elite, maybe that was the plan for him eventually to turn heel. The issue is with that is that he got really popular. He got really over. He got more over being the heel or being a darker version of himself than they expected. Kenny Omega was the one that a couple of weeks ago, after a match against the Jurassic Express, he beat the hell out of Marco Stunt, which was a heel turn. It absolutely was a heel turn, and he's playing it up. They've been teasing the cleaner on being the Elite, and Kenny Omega, I think, personally, does his best work as a heel. I loved his work in New Japan as the cleaner, as a heel. I think a Kenny Omega heel turn is incoming, and I think it's the right thing to do, because Kenny Omega, regardless of your opinion on him, his matches, I know some people, Jim Cornette, don't like his matches, but he's a world-class athlete. He's a world-class performer. He's one of the best wrestlers in the world. He needs to be in the main event scene. He needs to be competing for the AEW World Championship, and that's just, he does. And again, it goes back to, I spoke about other people on this. Have they lived up to expectations in AEW, like the Matt Hardys, etc.? Maybe the Young Bucks. And I think Kenny Omega took a back seat in his first 18 months with the company, but I think eventually they need to get him back into the main events. And I don't lend any credence to the people that say, well, this isn't the Kenny Omega that's in New Japan, because a lot of people, when they say that, didn't watch New Japan very frequently. They only watched the shows in the Tokyo Dome and stuff like that, and saw the Kenny Omega amazing matches against Okada and stuff like that. And then they go, oh, this isn't the same Kenny Omega. Well, you're seeing Kenny Omega every week. That's why. He's under a lot more scrutiny here. He's still the same Kenny Omega. He's just not being featured in the prominent positions, in my opinion. So I think for this match, we're going to have FTR win. I'm without a shadow of a doubt, I think FTR are going to win this one, become the new AEW World Tag Team Champions. Now, look, on this channel, we've had the discussions. The Four Horsemen. Are we going to have a Four Horsemen in AEW? FTR as the tag team. In there, you got Tully Blanchard as the manager. Is Adam Page going to be involved in that? You could have Adam Page, FTR, Tully Blanchard, and Sean Spears. Maybe you have FTR, Tully Blanchard, Sean Spears, and Kenny Omega. I still think what we're truly going to see here in this match is a heel turn by Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks. I think the Young Bucks are going to get involved. Of course, Adam Page cost the Young Bucks a shot at the Tag Team Championships. I think the Young Bucks are going to come out. Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks are going to turn on Adam Page, and FTR are going to win this one. And then we have a heel version of the Elite Trio, Nick and Matt Jackson and Kenny Omega, that we saw in New Japan. I think that's where we're going to go for this one. So I'm going to go with new World Tag Team Champions in FTR. And another bold prediction, I think the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega are going to turn heel here on Hangman Adam Page. So next up, we have the first ever Mimosa Mayhem match. The match can be won by pinfall, submission, or throwing your opponents into a tank of mimosa. We have Chris Jericho going up against Orange Cassidy. Jericho versus Orange Cassidy 3. They are obviously the first two matches. One took place at Fyter Fest, which Chris Jericho won. And then we had a second match take place on AEW Dynamite, which Orange Cassidy won. So this is the final match in the trilogy here. Mimosa Mayhem match, look, it is a bit of craziness, and even though the match can be won by pinfall submission, it's going to be won by throwing the opponent in a tank of mimosa. I have no doubt there. And as I'll tell you my prediction at the top here, I think Orange Cassidy's going to win. And some people will be surprised to see that. But this whole feud is about trying to build a new star. You look at the interviews that Chris Jericho's done. He said that, you know, initially he wasn't a fan of Orange Cassidy. He didn't get him. And I think a lot of people didn't get him at the start, but over is over. If you're getting the audience to cheer you, and the audience are invested in you, and the audience like you, and you listen to the reactions that he used to get when the crowd was there, and I'm sure we'll get when the crowd returns, you can't you can't ignore that. And Chris Jericho's a very, very smart guy. He's been in the business a long, long time. He knows when things are money. He knows when someone's over, and Orange Cassidy is over. So Chris Jericho, being the smart guy that he is, decided, look, okay, let's work with him. Let's make this work. He's obviously got popularity. Let's make this work. Now, some people would have taken a look at Orange Cassidy and gone, well, he's over, but he's a comedy guy, right? He doesn't sell anything. He puts his hands in his pockets. That's it. That's what Orange Cassidy does. Chris Jericho has taken a look at that and gone, okay, let's evolve him. Let's have him work great matches. Let's have him cut promos like he did in the debate. Let's have him get serious on occasions and brawl with Chris Jericho like he's been doing. He's got color. All of this stuff has been the way to elevate Orange Cassidy to a point where now he's a credible main event star. Some people will scoff at that and go, oh, no, he's not. But he is. He absolutely is. And he's a legitimate AEW star. I know, obviously, Orange Cassidy made his name on the independent scene and in other various independent companies, but Orange Cassidy hasn't been involved in WWE. He hasn't been on the main stage with WWE. This character hasn't been involved in the main stage of WWE. It's really, really important that AEW makes their own stars. If the lifeblood of a promotion is making new stars that differentiate yourself from the competition, Orange Cassidy is absolutely one of those guys. Absolutely. And the moment that this Chris Jericho Orange Cassidy feud started, I put out a tweet and I said that this is brilliant by Chris Jericho because he's going to show different layers to Orange Cassidy. He's going to make him serious. He's going to make him show that Orange Cassidy cares, and he's going to get Orange Cassidy to work and cut promos. And that's exactly what he's done, because that's how you get someone to the next level. Of course, the previous Orange Cassidy character couldn't be a main eventer. Of course, that character can't be a world champion. You can't have the hands in the pockets and not cutting promos forever. But what they've done here is very clever. They've basically turned it around to a point where Orange Cassidy goes, if I care, I try. And at this moment, I care. He's changed away from this sort of weird guy to sort of just a bit of a cool guy. And I think they've done a fantastic job. And while some people, again, Orange Cassidy isn't going to be for everyone, and obviously some people have made their mind up on him. But I think their segments have been very, very good. I think the debate segment with Eric Bischoff and Chris Jericho was fantastic. I think some of the promo work by Orange Cassidy and Chris Jericho is great. I really enjoyed the segment where the orange juice got dropped on Chris Jericho and really kickstarted this next element to the feud. I thought their match at Fyter Fest was fantastic. I really did. I thought it was absolutely fantastic. And I have no doubts here that this match will be good too. I thought their second match wasn't as good. The finish was a bit sloppy and wasn't for me. But I do think that Jericho versus Orange Cassidy 3, I think it's got a potential to be good. It's going to be a spectacle. It's going to absolutely be a spectacle. As I mentioned, not going to be won by pinfall or submission. I think Orange Cassidy is going to throw Chris Jericho into the tank of Mimosa. It's a moment, right? It's a moment that's going to be repeated on highlight reels, on television programs, on whatever internet programs and blogs, and shared on social media. It's an attempt by AEW to continue to go viral. When Chris Jericho first came to AEW, he just every single week, bang, 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 everything he hit just went viral, mainstream attention, a little bit of the bubbly, all of that sort of stuff. It went viral, and I think this is another attempt at AEW to do that. So I think Chris Jericho is going into the tank of Mimosa again to get that viral clip, get people talking, and to put over a new talent. So I think Orange Cassidy is going to win this one. Obviously, I'm really looking forward to it because maybe the match itself might not be amazing, but it's going to be an absolute spectacle. It's going to be an absolute spectacle. Again, I do think it's funny that the Mimosa Mayhem match, the Broken Rules match, the Tooth and Nail match, if Vince Russo had written this, people would be going insane. If Vince Russo had written this, I still would have been looking forward to it. I enjoy these spectacle type matches. I enjoy these unique matches, and if they're different, either they can work or they really don't. But in this case, I think it's Chris Jericho. I think he can make anything work. So I think Orange Cassidy will win this one, and I think it'll be a lot of fun. Finally, we have our main event, a singles match for the AEW World Championship. AEW World Champion Jon Moxley defends against MJF, of course, with Wardlow in his corner. One of the stipulations in this match is that Jon Moxley is banned from using his Paradigm Shift finishing move. This feud has been odd. I was really excited for Jon Moxley versus MJF, and I thought the promo by MJF to kick off this feud, when he was doing the MJF 2020 thing. I thought the promo by MJF, that initial promo on Dynamite, I thought was excellent. I thought it was a real great promo, and I was really excited to see the promo battles between MJF and Jon Moxley. Since then, though, this feud I think has been a miss. I know it probably will upset some people, but I just don't think they've hit it. I think they've missed on this one. I don't understand the reason for having MJF becoming this sort of political campaigner. I understand the political nature, and we're heading into an election in November, blah, blah, blah. We don't need that on TNT, and MJF doesn't need that gimmick. He really doesn't need that gimmick as a heel. So that, for me, was a miss. I think the whole lawyer thing was an absolute miss. The contract signing about the paradigm shift and MJF selling the neck injury from the paradigm shift, it's very old school pro wrestling, I suppose, and no one ever bought for a second that MJF was hurt or anything like that. So that was what that is. And you had the dumb lawyer, oh, you didn't see page 17, why didn't you read page 17? You've got to face me next week. And they had the lawyer this week as the main event segment for Dynamite, and again, it was a miss. It didn't work. It was just stupid. It was stupid. And I do find it ironic that you've got Jon Moxley, who in every interview post WWE has said about Vince McMahon, all he wanted me to do was comedy stuff. Why are you giving me comedy stuff? Blah, blah, blah. He does a lot of comedy. He does a lot of comedy still. That main event segment was a comedy segment. Obviously, you had the beatdown afterwards. We'll touch on that in a second. But it was a comedy segment. You're involved in a comedy segment wrestling a lawyer that can't wrestle. And you have Jon Moxley wearing an eye patch in his feud against Chris Jericho. Bit comedy. And before that, he had a whole segment of, I pretended to join the inner circle, then I didn't. It was played for comedy. He stole someone's car, played for comedy. And it was a prop. And I do find it funny that Jon Moxley complained about that in WWE, yet he does it in AEW. And the segment, the go-home segment for your World Championship match, arguably your WrestleMania caliber event, was a comedy match wrestling a lawyer. I thought it was stupid. And it just didn't work. It didn't feel, it was dumb. The only time since that initial MJF promo that I thought that, okay, this feud is going somewhere and MJF actually felt like a credible threat was in the post-match beatdown, right? MJF finally beats down Jon Moxley. Jon Moxley gets color, gets some blood, and MJF takes off his neck brace and walker, and suddenly he's not hurt. And again, it was like, oh, come on. You're insulting the intelligence there of the fans. And MJF beats him down, holds up the world title, and I went, where was this guy? Because this guy feels like he could be the world champion. The MJF running President 2020 and cutting stupid promos about his gum guy and woman smiling, it didn't work. And I just think that this feud has been a miss. I really do. I just don't think they've hit it out of the park on this one. I think they could have done a lot better. Why couldn't they have just had Jon Moxley versus MJF? MJF just cutting the promos that MJF does. They didn't need to add this campaign for a better AEW story. They didn't need to add it. They didn't need to add in the lawyer. It was just too over the top. It was something that WWE would do. It is something that WWE would do, and I didn't think it was necessary, and it felt like a miss. In terms of the match itself should be fine. People have criticised MJF's work in the ring, and he is a better talker than he is worker, but I think the match should be fine. I just think at this point, I think Jon Moxley will win. Going into this feud, I thought MJF would win, and you would solidify yourself a new star in AEW with MJF as a world champion. He's, 23 years old, something like that, and they could have absolutely made themselves, he's 24, he can make himself a brand new star, and it could have been a massive moment for AEW, right? You make two new original stars, MJF and Orange Cassidy, in the same night. But at this point, coming out of this feud, I don't feel like MJF has the momentum for it. I really don't. I think Jon Moxley will win. As I mentioned, I think Lance Archer is going to win the Casino Battle Royale, so I think we're going to move on to a Jon Moxley versus Lance Archer feud with Jon Moxley on the mic with the likes of Jake Roberts. I just think that this feud has been a miss. That's what I think. So I think Jon Moxley is going to win this one. I'm sure we'll have some shenanigans. MJF hasn't lost in singles action this year, so his O has got to go, as they must say. So I think Jon Moxley is going to win this one. I really do. But of course, as always, these are just one man's prediction. What are your thoughts and predictions on AEW All Out tonight? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I'll be sure to respond and reply to all of your comments. If you've enjoyed this video, please do smash a like on the like button. Really does help us out here on YouTube. Go up the rankings and get into people's recommendation feeds here on YouTube. If you haven't already, you can subscribe to WrestleNews 365. Do that by clicking the bottom right hand corner of the screen right now, or if you wait a few seconds, there'll be a subscribe button at the end of this video along with another video for you to watch. We're closing in on 800 subscribers, so if you haven't already, please do subscribe. You can also follow us on our social media channels. The handles are on the screen right now. The links are in the description box below. It's at 365Wrestle on Twitter and Instagram, and at WrestleNews 365 on Facebook. So be sure to give us a like or a follow there if you haven't already. Thank you very much for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today, and I'll speak to you again very, very soon. Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.